Hello folks, my name is Mark, this is Why I Hate the World, how you guys doing? So I want to talk about this notion, right, this statement that I hear a lot coming from a lot of conservative commentators and such, where they'll say that conservatism is the new punk rock. And I just want to say that is the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my entire life. That is incredibly fucking stupid. It makes no sense. It completely ignores the entire history of punk rock. It ignores the politics of punk rock. It ignores the very fucking ethos of punk rock, the soul of punk rock, right? I mean, conservatism is like the opposite of like punk rock, right? It's like poison to punk rock. It's fucking punk rock kryptonite. And I hear this a lot from people, you know, conservative commentators. I think Dave Rubin said it once on his show. Paul Joseph Watson or whatever the fuck that guy's name, and some English fucking moron that's on InfoWars that has three names, like his name is like three first names, Paul Joseph Watson, something like that. You know, you hear it from these fucking idiots, and the reason they say this is because the idea goes like this. Okay, PC culture is mainstream now. Right, it's bad to like call people the N-word and to like, you know, sexually assault women and shit like that now. And, you know, it's acceptable for like gay people to be seen in public, shit like that. And since, you know, conservatives don't give a fuck about all that and like to say the N-word and, you know, call gay people fags and shit like that, then they're, you know, bucking the mainstream. And that's punk rock. That's the dumbest fucking thing, like, ever. Like anything, punk rock runs the gamut of, you know, political ideologies. I mean, shit, there's anarchist punk rock, there's conservative punk rock bands, right? There's socialist punk rock bands, there's, you know, a lot of bands and stuff like that. I mean, shit, there's even Nazi fucking punk rock bands, you know. I mean, that was so bad that back in the day, like, I mean, the Dead Kennedys had a song called Nazi Punks Fuck Off. Right, so, but it's not, I don't think it's untrue, you know, to say that the vast majority of it has all been progressive. They've all come at it from a very, very progressive, very, very liberal side of the, you know, coin, right? And they're all very anti-war. You know, they stand for gender equality, racial equality, wage equality, a lot of them, you know, especially anti-corporatist. I mean, shit. That's like the entire reason why punk rock was fucking started, you know, was like an anti-corporatist stance, you know. And can you really say that any of that stuff I just said fits in with a conservative worldview? Like, hell no, you know. Conservatives are very, very, very corporatist. They're very anti-fucking human rights. They don't care about gender equality. They don't care about racial equality. They don't care about, you know, equality of any kind whatsoever. You know, all they really give a fuck about is, like, money. I mean, the whole point behind punk rock to begin with, you know, the ethos, the soul of punk rock was to be independent. You know, more so than anything else, really. It was that sort of do-it-yourself kind of, you know, we're not going to let anybody hold us back, we're going to do it, and we don't need, you know, the fat cats and their money, right? It's a very, very anti-corporatist movement, you know, anti-establishment movement, you know, and that's why a lot of bands back in the early 80s and up and even till the 90s would go with, you know, they'd play around and they'd get kind of successful, and then, but they would choose to sign with like small little labels, you know, small record companies and stuff, and not big, huge ones, right? Because they're anti-corporatist. And people who did sell out, you know, who did, like, join up with, like, big major record labels, like, fucking people would make fun of them, call them sellouts, and shit like that. You know, you fucking sold out, man. You're on, like, you know, Warner Brothers and shit, you know, on MTV playing like a fucking, you know, playing like a fucking robot. I mean, that was the whole idea behind, you know, it was a do-it-yourself thing, you know. You saw like a huge explosion of the zine scene, their own record labels, their own clothing labels, things like that, right? They did it themselves, they did it without anybody's permission, And they didn't do it to become billionaires. They did it because, you know, they were expressing themselves, right? The idea behind punk rock, it's not about money. You know, it wasn't about money and fame. It was about, you know, sending a message, right? That our generation is not going to be ignored, stuff like that, right? And the thing is, I was too young for all of this shit. I really didn't get any of it until the 90s, really, early 90s. And even by then, by the early 90s, it was like punk was already dead, you know? You already like all the great bands that were there in the early 80s were gone, right? All the shit like that, and you started seeing stuff like Green Day, you know, which is, you know, don't get me wrong, you know, Green Day, it's not that I don't like them, but, you know, they're not a punk rock band, right? They're not in the same way, right? They were a commercially viable product, right? That's not what punk rock is. Punk rock is not a commercially viable product. I mean, ultimately, punk rock was not about, you know, shocking people, right? It wasn't about pissing people off. I mean, the whole reason why people dressed all crazy and stuff like that, you know, with fucking torn up clothes and spikes and, you know, with crazy ass hairstyles, you know, mohawks, dyeing their hair fucking green and stuff like that, and tattoos and all that. You know, the whole reason behind that was to basically buck the fucking system, you know, was to, like, you know, divorce yourself from the system so that, you know, because fuck them. That was the whole idea. I mean, you can't get a job with, like, a fucking, you know, multicolored Liberty spikes and face tattoos, right? I mean, that's the whole point behind it, is that you're not going to end up in a fucking office somewhere pushing pencils or whatever, you know, doing, you know, making reports for your fucking 6 o'clock meeting, right? If you have, like, you know, facial fucking piercings and, like, tattoos above your fucking eyes and, you know, spikes coming out your head. That was the whole fucking idea. And the idea was that we didn't need that shit. That's what punk rock was all about. It wasn't there to piss people off. It wasn't there to make people angry, right? It was almost the opposite of that. It was to make people think, and it was to, like, so, you know, express your independence, right? And ultimately it was to help people, you know. Punk rock people are like the nicest fucking people you'll ever meet, right? There's very, very few assholes that I've met in my personal experience who, you know, listen to that kind of music and live that kind of lifestyle. They're generally really cool, right? And, you know, maybe they're tough, and maybe they don't take shit from anybody, but at the same time, they don't fuck you up for no reason, you know? And that was the whole point behind it. It was like, it was basically the ultimate expression of I'm gonna do my thing, you know? Conservatism is the exact opposite of that. Conservatives, you know, don't like it when people don't conform, okay? They don't, I mean, seriously, that's the entire thing behind conservative politics, if you really think about it. They don't like black people, they don't like minorities, they don't like gay people, they don't like people who dress funny, they don't like women with pink hair, they don't like people who want to collect taxes to help homeless people, they don't like helping other people, right? They don't like any of that shit. They don't like anything that helps anybody, right? All they give a fuck about is money and cutting taxes, right, and forcing everybody to be Christian. I mean, that's what it fucking seems like. Conservatism is the new punk rock because, like, you know, they're anti-SJW and they like to piss off, you know, lesbians or whatever. Fuck those people. They're fucking dumb, you know. Anybody who says that is a goddamn moron, and it's a safe, you know, if you hear that, it's a good signal to, you know, basically ignore anything they say about anything because they're fucking stupid. Anyway, that's all I got, folks. Adios.